you might want to put your thinking cap on for this one. Welcome to AI in 5, where we discuss key AI developments in about 5 minutes or less. Today, we are discussing the future of capitalism and the controversial position by founder and author Emad Mostaque.
Right. And, we really have to dig into the key theories in his book, The Last Economy, because he's talking about a world where white-collar jobs just collapse. Not in a decade, but, next year.
Yeah, this is a really jarring premise.
It is. But it forces us to look at this fundamental economic tension. I mean, AI is just this absolute economic engine, right? It boosts productivity and decision-making exponentially.
Oh, absolutely. But the catch is what happens to the human workers.
Exactly. When you remove human labor on that kind of mass scale, you basically shake the foundational mechanics of how our whole market system functions.
Because capitalism, it inherently requires consumption, right?
Right.
So if AI is doing all the work, corporate productivity totally skyrockets.
Hmm.
But the consumer base just evaporates. It's, the shoe factory problem.
Oh, right. The classic analogy.
Yeah. If a hyper-efficient shoe factory fires all its workers to maximize profits, it might look brilliant on paper.
Sure, in the short term.
Right. But they ultimately bankrupt themselves because absolutely nobody in town has a paycheck left to buy the shoes.
Precisely. And that's what Mostaque calls out as the overproduction crisis. Without a paycheck, workers who don't have, highly advanced technical skills lose their leverage entirely.
Wow. So they just become obsolete.
Well, it creates what some economists are calling a useless class. The system basically eats itself because that core loop of producing and consuming is just broken.
Okay, so if the shoe factory bankrupts itself because no one has a paycheck, society has to step in to keep the economy breathing, right?
Yeah, they have to do something.
Which is why Mostaque and other theorists bring universal basic income, or UBI, back to the center of the conversation to mitigate all this.
Exactly. So to mitigate the massive fallout, proposed theories include progressive taxation on the tech entities generating the wealth, massive worker retraining, and of course, UBI. And, we actually have data suggesting UBI can work.
Wait, really? Like where?
So look at the Give Directly experiment in Kenya. They provided a regular, unconditional income to thousands of villagers.
Okay.
And it didn't disincentivize work, which is the usual fear.
Right. People think everyone will just sit around.
Exactly. But instead, it significantly reduced poverty, improved mental health, and actually spurred people to invest in assets like, livestock and small businesses.
Okay, but wait. In the last economy, Mostaque explicitly predicts UBI will fail. And I kind of have to agree with the skepticism here.
Yeah, there are valid concerns.
I mean, if governments just print money to fund UBI for millions of unemployed white-collar workers, doesn't that just trigger, runaway hyperinflation?
That is the major concern, yes.
Or even a complete fiscal collapse of the state? Because we aren't really fixing the broken system. Doesn't mass automation force us to fundamentally rethink what money even is?
Yeah, and that is the exact threshold we cross into what is being called the infinity economy. You kind of have to stop thinking about our current world of, finite resources and thermodynamic limits.
Where things are scarce and cost money to produce.
Right. Instead, we are moving toward a paradigm of informational abundance.
Okay, make that concrete for me. How does a world without fiat money actually function for you and me?
Think of it like oxygen. We don't use money to buy oxygen because it's completely abundant, right?
Sure.
Well, in an infinity economy, AI makes intellectual labor and digital goods as abundant as oxygen. So traditional fiat currency just loses its primary use case.
Wow. So what replaces it?
Society shifts to new value systems. These are based on cognitive labor, informational influence, and reputational capital.
So instead of a bank account full of dollars, my wealth is essentially my reputation, like the unique human insights I contribute or my social influence.
Exactly. The value is continuously generated by algorithms rather than extracted from scarce physical resources.
That sounds kind of utopian, but there's got to be a catch, right?
There is a massive catch. If we aren't careful, that infinite abundance gets completely monopolized by a few tech elites who own the servers.
Oh, of course. The ones controlling the AI.
Right. So to prevent that, Mostaque and others suggest that society absolutely must build an open algorithmic commons.
Meaning the actual infrastructure of production, like the AI models themselves, has to be decentralized and openly accessible to everyone.
Precisely. It can't be locked behind a corporate paywall. We have to govern this new abundance collectively.
Which is a huge shift.
It is. And it leaves us with a really profound psychological hurdle, because for centuries, our human self-worth has been tied directly to our economic output.
Right, our jobs.
Exactly. So if AI does all the work, are we actually prepared to separate who we are from what we produce?
Ultimately, the choice is ours. We can continue to operate as sovereign human beings, or we can surrender, as described, to sovereign AI. Is that really what we want to do? Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us for this episode of AI in 5 on the Global AI Policy News Channel. Until next time.